Hey everybody, how you doing? Yep. Welcome to the PHLY Flyers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the morning. I don't know. Joining me tonight, it is Philly's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor. That was a hell of a game, Chuck. I gotta say, what a 60 minutes of Flyers hockey we just witnessed there. That game sucked. Like it was not interesting. The goaltending was a joke, and honestly, I don't know what else you can say about this one.
See, I actually come away significantly less angry, distraught, frustrated, because in my eyes, 18 players on the team played pretty well. The skaters played well enough to, at the very least, get this to overtime. They played a really good team in Vegas on the road in a tough environment, and the skaters overall played somewhere between decent to actually good. The goaltender, on the other hand, played terrible. And you know what? That's hockey sometimes. The Flyers obviously put themselves in a position this year where they had a bunch of goaltenders who were unproven, who you didn't know how good they were. Sam Ersson was the guy they were most confident about. That guy's injured right now. The guy who they decided was their backup to start the year, who they gave a relatively lucrative 2-year contract to, despite the fact that he hadn't really shown anything in North America to that point. They've also decided that he's not one of their two best goalies. So they're using this soon-to-be 23-year-old rookie, and sometimes the kid just doesn't have it. And the kid did not have it tonight. Now, we can talk about what this means for how we view him in the short term and the long term, but this is a relatively easy game to analyze in my book. The team played pretty well. The goalie played terribly, and because it's hockey, it's very, very difficult to overcome the performance of the goalie when he performs this poorly. There were 3 goals that he should have stopped.
It's
hard to overcome that.
It is very hard to overcome it. The goal that exemplifies to me what the problem is, beyond just like, the goalies suck, but the team played well, and that's just the way it is. And listen, if you're pro tank, this is another loss you chalk up to, hey man, Tyson Foerster, those guys looking good. Stuff's going well. It looks like Owen Tippett suddenly can pass. That's great. And the goalies are going to make sure that they draft within the top 10 and perhaps even better. But 2 minutes and 46 seconds into the third period, I saw a team on the ice that was just like, F this, man. Like, we have no chance. And then the goal that they give up at that time, you go, well, I can't even really blame them. But that just leads to, it's really hard for me to evaluate everyone else. And yeah, didn't play bad tonight. In fact, the first 40 minutes, he played pretty damn well, I thought. But when I see stuff like that, the Alexander Holtz goal, everything that led to that, I see a team that is down 3-1 in the third. They lead the league in third period comebacks, and they're like, we don't have a chance tonight. We don't, simply because of the goaltender in net. And listen, I was much more complimentary of Kolosov than you were in pregame. Maybe I'm infatuated with some of the big saves he made, and he made a couple late in the third period, and honestly, I felt that those were insulting. Just let it in. Like, this is actually inflating your numbers now. You're like, I made the argument that he's played better than his numbers. No, he was worse than his numbers tonight, because 3 of the 4 goals he allowed were garbage. My issue long term at this point, I don't know if it's long term or if it's just everyone kind of rolls their eyes because the coach is insane. So what are you going to do? But the one thing that has been established with this team in terms of building the culture is that this is a meritocracy. I do not care if you are the captain of the team, the highest paid player on the team, the top prospect on the team, whatever. If you're not doing what I ask of you, you're out. Don't matter. Matvei Michkov through 40 minutes had the least ice time among forwards tonight. Just, Guy who's one of the best players in the team. How does Aleksei Kolosov stay in this game when he is the worst player on the ice by a whole lot? Do you not think this is damaging towards his credibility a little, Charlie?
Look, I'm not there, so I can't speak to what John Tortorella's opinion of Aleksei Kolosov's play was. I don't know why he kept him in. But there are a lot of reasons why you keep a guy in. I mean, one reason could simply be he just has no faith in Ivan Fedotov, and Ivan Fedotov hasn't played in so long that he was ride or dying with Kolosov in this game regardless. That's one possible explanation. Another possible explanation, which, hey, coaches have done this before, might have just decided, Kolosov, you got to eat this. You gotta sit there and you gotta take it because you let your team down, and I'm not giving you the mercy hook. You are going to play all 60 minutes of this game, and if you give up 9 goals, I'm leaving you. That could be a reason too. So I don't want to speculate on the reason why he kept him in. I agree that especially after that 4th goal, logically that's when you pull a guy because then it's abundantly clear that he's got nothing in this game. And maybe he had a little bit more in the tank because he does make those big saves at the end of the game when it doesn't really matter, showing he has the talent. But I agree that would be the moment when you pull a guy. Maybe it's the lack of confidence in Fedotov, whether from a talent standpoint or a rust standpoint, or maybe he just wanted Kolosov to eat this game. But you're not wrong that he probably should have pulled Kolosov, but there would be reasons I could at least understand why you keep him.
That's the if the backup tonight Fedotov is in a in literally any other situation where, we have this guy, it's like, yeah, he's here, but he's basically an emergency backup. Like he hasn't played in God knows how long. It's been a month since he's played, at least.
Nearly a month, yeah.
It was the first period, and that's it was the first period of the Florida game. 2 bad goals, and honestly, the goals that actually went in, bad. The circumstances of the goals, on the team in front of him, 100%. And it was like, yeah, you're done, and in fact, you're never going back in. And you watch Kolosov tonight, I was a little surprised it wasn't at the start of the 3rd period, but to me, that's like, all right, we gotta just deal with it because I don't know what this guy even has. He hasn't played in a freaking month. And then he lets in that early soft goal in the 3rd period. And I'm like, it has to be Fedotov now, but he stays in there and wears it. And we see that. Listen, it happens. You see it a lot in baseball where it's like, listen, we're out of dudes. So you just got to take a beating. Sometimes you got to take a beating. There is part of me, and I know you don't know the answer to this. There is part of me that wonders if there's some of John Tortorella or even above him who are like, he thinks he's ready. Show him he's not. Leave him in there. I do wonder if there's just a twinge, a squibble and that's the other thing. The squibble goal, the one that didn't go in, that easily could have been just a soft goal he let up through his legs, but somehow somebody saw it before anyone on Vegas did. I think it was Noah Cates. I think it was Noah Cates saved it before anyone on Vegas noticed it was sitting there. I do wonder if there is just a hint of this entire organization going, so you think you're ready, huh? You're gonna go back to Belarus because you're not in the NHL? Okay. Good luck with that. I wonder if there's a little part of that, Chuck.
It could be, and I can tell you this just based on the people in my mentions on social media. Kolosov doing what he did during the summer and then leading into training camp, because as everyone remembers, he didn't show up to training camp on time because of this dispute. By doing what he did, it put him behind the proverbial 8 ball with the fans. It absolutely did. And if he showed up here and was awesome, or at least legitimately good right off the bat, he would have been forgiven real quick, because then it would have been, you're confident and you prove that you justify that confidence. You're ready. You're right. You shouldn't be in the AHL, and you knew you shouldn't have been in the AHL. And actually, that makes us like you more, that you had the confidence to stare down the organization to get what you knew you were ready for. And then you got it. And then you ran with it. You got that opportunity and you ran with it. The problem is that now he's not looking good. And now the fans are thinking the only reason why this clearly not ready goalie is still here is because the organization is afraid he's going to take his ball and go home if he gets sent down to the AHL, which is where it certainly looks like right now where he should be. I'm not out on Aleksei Kolosov's talent. I think he has talent. I think he has upside. I think he could be part of the long-term solution here in Philadelphia in goal. But I'm fairly confident he's not ready yet. And the main reason why, there's two reasons really why he's still here. Reason number one is that the other guy hasn't given them enough of a reason to have the tough conversation with him. But the other reason, I'm sure, is because they know it's going to be a tough conversation. I believe Kevin Kurz earlier on this trip asked Kolosov, I guess it would have probably been after the LA game, I'm guessing, whether Kolosov thought that his game could benefit from more time in the AHL. And apparently through the translator, Kolosov said it did. As in, and the way I interpreted that was like, I spent my time in the AHL. It helped. I never want to go back there again. And if that's what he meant, like, I get the thought process. I get where he's coming from, where no one wants to be in the minors. They want to be in the NHL if they have the opportunity to be in the NHL. That said, you're watching him play. And I know why he wants to be up here. But everybody else watching him play, the obvious interpretation is that he's not yet ready to be a regular NHL goalie, and he would be best served learning more in the AHL. Everybody sees it, the fans see it, and the fact that he's not yet there, it's only getting fans more and more frustrated because the answer, the solution seems to be so glaringly obvious. And it seems like, based on what happened this summer and into the fall, that the only reason why they aren't going to that solution is because they are afraid of how this goalie, who clearly doesn't seem to be ready, is going to react to it.
Yeah, and like, I know that the situations are completely different. One had a contract, one didn't. Flyers had leverage in one situation, didn't. Like, it's just all that bravado after the Cutter-Gauthier trade. And listen, that was just some really good PR, but it's so proud of, like, yeah, man, he didn't want to be here, so we got rid of him. And that's just what's going to happen. Like, you're not going to dictate to us. And now it seems as if, yeah, we are going to be dictated to by a guy who isn't even actually all that good. And like,
at least not yet.
Yes, not yet. And that's the thing. I'm not done with him. I don't think this means his career is going to be terrible. Could mean that, but there's lots of goalies who started out poorly and then ended up really good. And there's plenty of goalies who came in hot and then, listen, fell off. It's just disappointing to see. To me, it was all about that first third period goal where I'm like, the team, they're still in this game, even though like their goalie is the worst player on the ice. And they picked it back up, and Tyson Foerster draws that penalty. They score on the power play. That's great. But it was just, I saw the way, I think it was the Frost line out there for that first third period goal. I was like, they feel that they don't have a chance because the goalie in between the pipes doesn't give them one. It was just disappointing to see because it's a team that has fought back so much all season.
Yeah, but it's a completely understandable reaction for the skaters watching that type of goaltending play. You saw it at the beginning of the year with Fedotov. I mean, by the end of the first Fedotov audition, before he had the big gap and then came in Tampa and has looked better since. By the end of those first, I think, 5 games, you could just tell, watching the skaters, that they had no confidence in that guy. And John Tortorella, I did a piece a few weeks ago trying to break down like why they played so poorly the first month and a half of the year before they started to figure it out and get better at 5-on-5 and have a better process to their game. And I asked a bunch of the leaders, like I asked Couturier, I asked Sanheim, I asked Lawton. They all gave me different answers. And then I asked John Tortorella. And I understand why, even if some of the players thought this, they didn't say it because you don't want to be throwing a teammate under the bus. But I thought it was interesting that Tortorella straight up said, I'm willing to say it now because I think the goalies have turned it around. They've righted the ship, but you can't discount the impact of guys not trusting that their goalies are going to make saves. And by him saying that, he's basically saying in retrospect, like, yeah, when Fedotov was on the ice, the guys just didn't trust him at all. So their structure was a mess because they didn't believe that if they gave up a single shot, it was going to be stopped. They just didn't have faith in it. And I'm seeing something similar right now with Kolosov. The thing with Kolosov, though, is like during Fedotov's poor start to the year, you didn't know if that's just all he was, if he was just that bad all the time. The thing with Kolosov is he'll go through stretches where he looks really, really good. Like, for example, the third period of the game he came in relief 2 nights ago. He made some amazing saves.
Incredible.
He very much deserves a share of that shared shutout that
100%.
Jim Jackson was talking about on the broadcast tonight. I think there's only been 6 in team history. Kolosov earned that, maybe even more than Eriksson did, because Eriksson might have played more of the game, but Kolosov made the tougher stops. So the players can see it, that he's got talent, but then they can also see him giving up these ghastly goals. I don't even know what word to use to describe them, but that fourth goal, I believe Brenna has a screenshot of it. The look on John Tortorella's face when they moved back to him after that goal was left, like that personified the look on like every Flyers fan who stayed up to watch this game after watching that missed shot. Because like, what can you do? And that's got to be how all the players were feeling, just like shoulders slumped and just thinking, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, no, and listen, that's on Vegas's 20th shot of the game. Like, while it is funny that they scored 4 goals on 20 shots,
oh jeez,
like, that can't be 1 out of 5 can't go in. Like, that's horrendous. That's not giving your team a chance. And that's kind of what happened tonight. We know that the goalie situation is what it is now. They have zero confidence in Fedotov. Kolosov is not ready. Sam Ersson is hurt. He's day-to-day. We have no idea what that means.
The last time he was day-to-day, he missed like 3 weeks.
Yeah. So we have no idea what that means. Do you think they will, and do you think they should maybe try to address this situation with, I'm not saying go out there like, oh yeah, let's try to talk Carey Price out of retirement or something. Like, let's just try to get some NHL caliber goalie to throw in the net and give the skaters a chance?
Frankly, no. I really don't. Number one, what I would immediately do is I would immediately give Fedotov another shot, because I do think they tossed him to the side a bit too soon, and I don't think it was quite fair to him. So that's the easy thing I do. I give Fedotov another shot, because like, what's he going to be worse than what Kolosov did tonight? I mean, he could be bad because we've seen him be real bad.
Yeah.
But I don't think, what's he going to do? Lose them a game? That's just what Kolosov did. Like, might as well give this guy a shot and see what he can do. Hey, the last time he came in after a long layoff, he had maybe his best game of his career against Andrei Vasilevsky and a team that won the Cup a couple years ago on the road. So maybe Fedotov can bring you something else. But no, I don't go out there and trade for a goalie or sign a goalie or claim a goalie or whatever. And it goes back to my general view of where this team is. I've noted this on multiple occasions, that the best way, if you're going to stealth tank, the best way to do it is have a team that is playing well and gets torpedoed by its goaltender. Look, I would like to see the Flyers make the playoffs this year. I think it would be good for a lot of the young guys to get that experience. I'd just like to see this team continue to trend upwards. But if they're going to be bad, this is the way to be bad, because it means that your skaters are still playing well. You're still driving play at 5-on-5. You're still creating chances. You're still scoring goals. You're just getting let down by your goaltending. So, and the positive of that is then you end up with the 7th or 8th overall pick, and maybe you have a better chance of getting the 1C you so desperately need. So for me, I just let it ride. If the goalies get better, great. If they don't, well, that stinks. They don't make the playoffs and they fall out of contention and they're not playing meaningful games well into March. But maybe that gets outweighed by the fact that you can have a better chance of getting the 1C you need so badly in the top 10.
Yeah, like, if you could guarantee me that the team is like, oh yeah, well, we're just going to keep plugging away and doing our thing, and we're going to be able to see guys continue to progress and play their game despite this horrendous goaltending, I could be convinced that that's the way to go. And I agree. Like, they probably need a top 10 pick more than they need, to make the playoffs or something. That's pretty obvious. But I don't know how much longer the guys will continue to play well if they're getting 800 goaltending. Like, that's the issue. At what point does it go back to, yeah, everyone has lost their structure, no one has any confidence, we can't take risks for goals anymore, because every time there's an odd man rush the other way, we give up a goal. Even when we keep our structure, like, oh yeah, but we screened them in the shot, and it went in. Like, I can see arguments both ways. Like, ultimately, it probably just makes the most sense to eat it and hope you get, the 6th overall pick or something. But damn, man, it's got to be a bummer for the players on the ice.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I feel bad for it. I felt bad for them in this game because I thought they played well enough. Maybe, whether it was to win or lose in overtime or shoot, I thought they played well enough to take this game at least to extra time. I thought the skaters played well enough for that outcome. They were let down by their goaltender. So I feel bad for them. Going back to your original question, though, about, how long does it last when they're still playing with structure, when they're still playing well at 5-on-5, while the goaltending is playing this poorly? I don't know. And you're right. It's tough. It's really tough for guys to not get demoralized. That said, if there's one coach that could keep them from falling apart, you would think it's John Tortorella. You would think that with all the mind games he plays and the fact that he has such power in the organization to push guys out if he doesn't think that they're giving their all, this is kind of why you have him. You have him to make it so the whole thing doesn't fall apart. And will it be a tough task for a head coach? Sure. But that's kind of why you have Torts here. So I have to believe that he has the ability. Whether he can do it, I don't know. Maybe the goalies will get better and he won't have to. But I have to believe that Tortorella can keep this team on track even if the goalies fall apart. If he can't, then I don't think anybody can.
Well, yes, and I'm going to make a point about culture later if we get to it. If not, it's going to be a tomorrow thing. We actually have a studio show tomorrow, Sam.
Sure
so
do.
Tune in for that. But it's I can just see it getting so old. Like, the goalies are terrible. That's why we're losing. And I have this maniac yelling at me about, like, oh, well, you weren't in the lane to block this shot. Like, neither was the goaltender. And that's kind of his job. Like, I can just kind of see I can see that getting real old, but they're professionals. Hopefully they keep playing hard and everything comes up Flyers. All right, before we go any further, I got to tell you about some of our partners here, starting with Rothman Orthopedics. Do you have aching joints or cramping hands? Is your back out of whack? Well, then Rothman's got you, because at Rothman Orthopedics, they've been practicing specialized care, and it's been their passion for over 50 years. Their mission, it's high-quality, compassionate, and affordable care rooted in research leading to new treatments and better outcomes. Each Rothman doc is laser-focused on their specialty: hip, knee, spine, you name it. They have a doctor for each body part right in your backyard. And they've been specializing for over 50 years with some of the best doctors in the country, because they're Rothman Orthopedics and they specialize in you. Rothman Orthopedics, specializing in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today. While we're here, I got to tell you about our friends at TrueMark Financial Credit Union, because TrueMark Financial wants to help coach up your kids to make better financial decisions. How are they going to do it? They're going to do it with a free Greenlight app. The Greenlight app is changing the game, helping kids and teens learn how to earn, save, and spend wisely. They can set up savings goals, track their spending, even get their allowance, all right there in the Greenlight app. And the best part, each kid gets their own debit card so they can make purchases and learn real-world money skills while you stay in control from your phone. You get peace of mind, and they get the freedom to make smart decisions with their money. It's like coaching your kids through their very own financial game. And for TrueMark Financial members, it's free. Now is the perfect time to introduce your kids to Greenlight. Get signed up today. Visit TrueMark.com/Greenlight for more information. All right, there was some good stuff in this game, Charlie, because like you said, a lot of the skaters played pretty well. We have to continue talking about this Foerster-Cates-Brink line. I pointed out the trend a couple of games ago. I really, really appreciate. Listen, now that there isn't even like a true fourth line, it doesn't quite matter as much. But I really appreciate John Tortorella going, we are going to start games with this, what you would probably call the third line, but it's been their best line for a few weeks now. Foerster-Cates-Brink, they start tonight's game, and 21 seconds in, Charlie, it pays off again. Tyson Foerster scores a goal. Bobby Brink picks up the assist. We did not cash that Bobby Brink goal tonight. He was very involved, but it's Tyson Foerster who scores. You're the numbers guy. I thought I saw them on offense a decent amount tonight. What are you seeing out of Foerster-Cates and Brink? And it seems like they're going to keep this up, man. Like we talked, this was a hot streak, but no, I think this is kind of sustainable out of these guys. You're muted, Chuck.
All right, you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are.
Great. As I was saying, it was their best line again by the numbers. So, all three players looking at it came in at around 69% expected goals for. So I'm sure you'll love that one.
Nice.
But overall, they were strong. They give up a one goal off of the icing, the face-off that Cates loses. But like those are the kinds of goals where I know some people will look at that and say, well, Cates lost the face-off, got to do better. And it's like, well, yeah, but like nobody wins every face-off. Like, sorry, you're going to lose some once in a while. So I don't really pin that on them. They had another strong game. They're a really good line. They clearly have chemistry. What they do as a three-man unit clearly works. And is it going to last forever? Almost certainly not, because there's no line that stays great forever. But it doesn't seem like this is just a flash in the pan. It seems like there's something real here. And it very well could be that multiple players are just taking leaps at the same time. Maybe both Bobby Brink and Noah Cates are just taking that leap simultaneously, and the line is benefiting from it. Maybe it's that Tyson Foerster has always been as good. He just got off to a weird, slow start, and now he's back to the player he really is, and he's carrying the line. Honestly, it's tough to tell. For a while, I thought it was Cates who was doing the most. Now it's like, now Foerster and Brink look a little bit better than Cates. Maybe it's just all three of them playing well at the same time, but you got to love what you're seeing out of this trio.
You do. And I'm trying to see I was trying to bring up the play-by-play. I couldn't remember if it was that face-off or one right before it, where it was actually Cates got tossed and then Brink had to take the face-off. But regardless, listen, you're going to give up a goal, and Vegas is really freaking good. But the fact that this line kind of finds itself on offense as much as it does, and they're converting now. It's some guys that you're like, all right, Noah Cates, you can drive play. Cool. Tyson Foerster, you do the little things. Can you score consistently? All right, Bobby Brink, we need the offense out of you because we don't know what else you bring. And we're starting to see this line really convert these shifts to offense. Bobby Brink, 3 shots, gets that assist tonight. Damn, he was so close to on like so many scramble plays in front. There was one that a shot that ricocheted off his skate and then like skittered through the crease. That bummed me out, Charlie. But I'm just enjoying watching this line and watching some guys who I kind of, other than Foerster, kind of a misfits line. Like, okay, let's see if these guys actually factor into the future. How big of a role could they play? Maybe it is just when this team is real good, that's a third line, but it's a damn good third line. And I saw them out there quite a few shifts, like against Jack Eichel, against guys who were getting, all-stars, and they're holding their own. It could be a matchup. It could be a great matchup in the future if they're able to keep this up. Again, like you said, no line stays together forever. No line stays hot together. But they're kind of just showing that they can do it, that they can play, and that they have good chemistry. It's a good mix of styles. I'm excited about watching these guys play every night.
Yeah, I'm more just excited about the three of them because, and maybe this is just a product of the fact that, like, I've covered the team for a long time. It's not that I don't care about the lines. It's that I think fans care too much about the lines because they get changed so often. And you'll write a story, 1 week where it's like, oh, this is the greatest line ever. Their underlying numbers are great. Everything's awesome. And then a week and a half later, they get broken up and you never see them again. Or they pop back up a year later. So I try not to get too fixated on combinations because I've just seen so many times. Like, it's rare when you have a 3-man line,
especially 3 guys,
that stays together forever. It's really, really rare. But what I'm excited about this line's emergence is on this line, you have 3 youngish players. And if 2 of those 3, if all 3 of those 3 guys are all taking leaps this year, that's big. And to me, I think it's more likely that this line is playing well because multiple guys in this line, if not all 3, are getting better true talent-wise, as opposed to, no, they're all still, whatever players. They just have this magical chemistry that makes them all better when they're together. I'm excited because I think all 3, or at least a few of them, are getting legitimately better individually to the point where when this line invariably does get broken up, because they always do, you put Tyson Foerster on a line with Matvei Michkov or on a line with Sean Couturier, and he's even better than he was last year. Bobby Brink gets put on the first line and actually scores a bunch of goals. That's what excites me. Less about the magic of this line and more about what I think it tells us about at least 2, if not all 3 of these guys taking leaps at the same time.
Yeah, the 3 of them together, that's a fun, right now thing. Oh, look at this thing. It's working. Cool. Bunch of stuff hasn't worked this year. That's nice. But when, we talked about Bobby Brink pregame, he was my pregame bet for an anytime goal. You're seeing legitimate improvement in his play. Tyson Foerster just stringing together some really strong performances, and he's finding the back of the net. Noah Cates actually improving as a center. It's cool to have these guys who can be your swingmen, be a left winger, be a center, play up and down the lineup. But this team so badly needs centers. Jet Luchenko, that's going to take up 1 spot. Outside of him, who are the centers going to be? Is Ryan Poehling going to be in your top 9? I really freaking hope not. Sean Couturier, if they come up on a situation where it makes sense to move on from that contract, they kind of have to do it unless he becomes a totally different guy in the next 3 years or something. Morgan Frost, we all know what Morgan Frost is, and that's not long for this world. And for Philadelphia, I don't think he's going to perish anytime soon.
Hopefully not.
He's a fine NHL player. I just don't think he fits what we're going to be doing here.
He might not be long for Flyers.
Yeah. I just named all the centers. We got 1 guy. I think it's a good sign that he's kind of just at least coming along in that regard. And that's all 3 of them. So the individual improvement, you can actually see it. That is a nice thing. Chuck, I was all ready to be fired up about Michkov's ice time in this game. He ends up playing 17 minutes. He's 4th or 5th, I think, among the forwards.
Yeah, you dropped that at the beginning of the show, and I'm like, I don't think he was down the bottom. I think the guy who was down the bottom was Sean Couturier.
It was Sean Couturier.
He didn't even break 10 minutes.
Yeah, he didn't. Mish was only at he was just under 10 minutes through 40, and then eventually he played over 7 minutes in the third, and then he ended up with 17 minutes. It was okay, normal stuff. But that's what really kind of was driving me nuts a little bit about the Kolosov thing. It's get this guy on the ice, maybe a little bit. But I'm going to talk about the power play right now, Charlie, because what do you think? Rocky Thompson, he's turned it all around. It's fixed.
Well, no, but it does at least look competent again, which is good. They're moving the puck better. I think, and I feel like people don't give him the credit he deserves. Not even that he deserves, because it's not like he's been good a lot. Jamie Drysdale looks pretty good on the power play right now. And I feel like people are immediately ready to write him off at every moment because there's a lot of people who've just decided he stinks and they're done with him. He's making plays on the power play now in the offensive zone. I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. Obviously, Owen Tippett has been surprisingly strong as a passer these last couple of games. And Travis Konecny is Travis Konecny. Like, you give him the puck in a shooting area where he can just let it rip, and it's a decent chance he's going to finish. But I'm liking what I've seen from Drysdale up at the top of the offensive zone over these last few games. I'm not going to lie.
I have been as well. Just you mentioned in pregame Drysdale's lateral skating. Like, okay, straight line, like Tippett, Paling, these guys, maybe even Konecny, fastest dudes on the team. But you see a little bit of that athleticism and that short area explosiveness from Jamie Drysdale when he's able to walk that line and when he keeps his head up and makes decisions while moving, he looks great. And that's something we're seeing out of him a little bit on the power play right now. And that's really cool. But it's Owen Tippett, his passing, because we talked about that in the last post game, Charlie. The resolutions article you wrote, which everyone can go read at allphly.com. Sign up to be a diehard. Resolutions for every player on the team. And you wanted to see Tippett make strides as a playmaker. There's a few games in a row now where we're starting to see him be a little bit more willing and a little bit more able to make high-end pass plays.
Yeah, no, I'm very much liking what I'm seeing from Owen Tippett. 2 straight games with an assist. He'd gone 3 games before that without one, but before that, he had the big 3-assist game against the Blue Jackets, which really caught my eye and kind of sent me down this rabbit hole. He clearly has the ability to make passes. Now, does he have the vision to do it regularly? Does he have the creativity? Unclear. But he clearly has the puck skills. And when he's in the right, I hate to bring it back to this because it always comes back to this. But like, I just feel like he's the kind of guy where if he was in a power play scheme that I trusted was good, and you put him in, I don't think he could be the kind of guy where he can, create chances for his line mates at will via his playmaking ability. But if you have a power play set up where it doesn't take a ton of thinking and he can just kind of lean on his instincts because it's that well designed, I think he could be a decent power play passer. I really do. I just don't know if this power play, the power play that is coached by Rocky Thompson, is ever going to consistently put him in those situations.
One little nitpick, and it's hard because they've scored a couple games in a row, but you have to ask, what is the point of this season? Like, all right, it's clearly not like trying to win, right? Because if it was, they'd go trade for a goalie they would have a month ago. What is the point of the season if Matvei Michkov ain't getting any power play time? Now, he did get like a minute tonight. He's on that other unit. I think he was out there with the Cates line and Risto, I think was the second group.
Yes, it was.
But it just seems kind of ridiculous not to have Matvei Michkov on the ice when a power play starts, Charlie.
I mean, it certainly does to fans who really only want to see Matvei Michkov, and that's it. The way that they're going to look at it is, look, that other unit's performing better right now. You want the minutes, you got to earn it. Simple as that.
Yeah. If there's a lot of guys not earning minutes, and by that I mean the goaltenders. And again, I understand the situation. I think leading the team in power play points is enough proof that you can be like, yeah, he belongs on that unit. But it's just one of those things that's more frustrating in the short term than the long term. He ended up playing, like I said, a minute of power play time tonight, or maybe just a minute and a third of power play time. That might have been was that their only power play tonight in the third period, I believe? I'm trying to think. They went 1 for 2. Yeah, it was the power play. It was the third period. They had both of their power plays. So that makes sense.
He finished with a minute of 5-on-4 power play time.
Yes. And it was, I understand where I was coming up with that now. It was all in the third period because they only had their power plays in the third period.
Right.
All right. But it's just, it's frustrating because I want to see him. I want to see him out there. I want to see him collecting points. And it's hard to argue he doesn't make the unit better. I know that they've scored a couple of goals in a couple of games, and that's all well and good. It's because no one's 12%. No one just doesn't score on the power play. They have a couple of times in a row. That's nice. but ultimately it's going to be him. So let's see him do it now. It's just one of those minor frustrations that I'm going to bitch about in a game that they, got killed in.
I guess I would share your frustration if he was off the power play entirely.
Okay.
Like, that's when I would be like, this is ridiculous. He's your most talented offensive player. He scored a ton of points in the power play. Pulling him off the power play entirely is insanely stupid, and it would be. But they're not pulling him off the power play entirely. He's just not on what right now is the preferred unit on the power play, and there's a very easy way for him to change that. Do some stuff on the power play.
When you only get 20 seconds, and it's probably in a regrouping situation because that's why the other unit's coming off the ice, it just makes it more difficult. But if they want him to be the driver of the other line, I guess I can't have a ton of a problem with it. I do want to, however, commend Morgan Frost because it was a real issue for him the first part of this season. Offensive zone faceoffs, he was like 50% in the offensive zone, which is bad. He won a couple of big ones tonight, a couple on the power play. Was pretty happy to see that out of him, Charlie. What did you think about this decision replacing TK on the penalty kill and doing it with Joel Farabee? Because my first thought is, one, penalty kill just hasn't been that good, but you have mentioned a few times, he's probably dealing with something, TK is. What did you make of that decision?
Well, I think they needed to do something to adjust that penalty kill. And one of the things, too, and this is just the reality of the situation, is that duo, the Konecny-Lawton penalty kill duo, it's never been the best at preventing shots and chances. The reason why they're effective is because they score goals. They score shorthanded goals. And it's a rarity. I mean, Lawton leads the league in shorthanded points over the last 3 years. Konecny ain't that far behind. Like, they were really good at it. This year, they haven't been that good at it. They got that one goal in December. And if you remember, right after that game, Tortorella was asked about it. Tortorella said, we almost broke the two of them up like right before this one. Well, we gave them one more game because basically out of respect for what they've done over the past 2 preceding years. Well, apparently all that really gave them was like a couple-week reprieve because now it's like, nah, we're breaking them up. We almost did it before. Now we're really doing it this time. I get it, though, because if they're not scoring shorthanded goals, they're also not playing great defense. And they never have played amazing defense, but you dealt with it because it was like, well, hey, they're scoring us 5-6 shorthanded goals a year. We'll take it. If they're not scoring, then it's sort of like, well, then maybe if we have a 60% efficiency rating on the penalty kill for a month and a half, which they pretty much do, you got to make some changes. And the easiest way to shake that up is to break up the duo that's been on the ice for a ton of goals against and consistently is the weaker of the two, I guess, 3 defensive units. Now, Joel Farabee in his place, he's always thought he could be a really good penalty killer. He's believed he has that skill set. I think in theory he does. That said, he's never developed into the defensive stalwart at 5-on-5 that I thought he was going to when they drafted him. So it's a worthwhile experiment. He did play the PK before. I think he really hasn't played the PK much since Shaw has taken over.
Yeah.
But he did play the PK a fair amount in previous years. So it's not like he doesn't have NHL experience on it. I'm fine to give it a look. That said, I do think the best version of their penalty kill has Travis Konecny on it. It's just they're so far away right now from the best version of their penalty kill. I get why they're shaking things up.
Wanting to maybe limit Konechny's exposure, I understand. And 2, like you said, it's not like it's the best defensive unit. They're just dangerous. Well, part of being a dangerous penalty kill unit is taking risks. Tough to take risks when you think, oh, yeah, if we don't get this puck out, it's going to be a goal. Like, this is just one of those things that I see goaltending affecting every aspect of, like, other aspects of this team's performance that goes beyond just like, oh, yeah, like, we lost, but everything else was fine. Like, and Scott Lawton, Travis Konecny, these are veterans. It's not as if, oh, it's going to hurt their development. Like, they are who they are. They're good players. They know what their roles are. It's just, I look at it and it's another, I want to see shorthanded goals. I want to see these guys together. It's a fun thing to watch, Charlie. It's 1:25 in the morning. We still have 15 minutes left. I would have liked to see an entertaining game. I don't think I got that tonight. And it's just a lot of these little things, I think, adding up to come back to the goaltending. But hey, before we go any further, I got to tell you about our friends at Rite Aid. Help protect yourself from pneumonia. Adults age 50 and older are now eligible for the pneumonia vaccine. It used to be 65 and older, but the CDC has lowered the age recommendation to 50 plus. Millions of people get pneumonia every year, according to the CDC. It's a respiratory illness, and fall and winter are a time that cause respiratory disease, typically to spread more in the community. So now is the time to get vaccinated and help keep yourself healthy. Because some people, you get pneumonia, it's mild symptoms, not that big a deal, but others experience very serious complications, and the vaccine is one of the best ways to keep yourself healthy, and it's usually no cost with your insurance. Getting vaccinated is easy. Just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule an appointment online at riteaid.com. And if you're unsure what vaccines you may need, just ask your pharmacist for a personal recommendation. So stop by your local Rite Aid today. While we're here, got to talk about our presenting sponsor, our friends at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I've been placing all my bets through them this year, so they are profiting greatly off of me when I do things like bet Bobby Brink anytime goal and comes away with another assist, but doesn't put one in the net. But whether it's game bets, pregame, in-game, I saw a lot of people after the Flyers went up 1-0 tonight were like, well, guess what they're not going to do? Win, and then bet on Vegas as underdogs, and it paid off. Maybe that can be your strategy as you watch the goaltending unfold for this team. But regardless, you got to place all your bets with Bet365. So download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Charlie, is there anything else from this game that you think we really need to get into, or is it time for 3 stars?
I think it's time for 3 stars. I'm going through real quick because I want to give an update, but I don't want to say it until I know for sure. So I'm going through the schedule. This was the final 10 p.m. game of the season.
Yes.
They have one more game at 9 p.m. when they play the Utah Hockey Club in early February. But this is the final true Flyers After Dark up until 1:30 doing a post-game show. So everyone who's been with us this whole time, thank you so much. Bill, thanks for trucking along with me. But we're done. We have no more 10 o'clock games the rest of the way this season.
Everybody hanging with us at 1:30. You get a piece of the championship right here. This is for you. But without further ado, it's time for Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game, leading off with star number 3.
Yeah, star number 3. God. It's so tough because I don't think the Flyers played a bad game. So I feel weird giving it to a Flyer, but you know what? I'm going to give 2 out of the 3 stars to Flyers.
Why not?
A 3rd star I'm going to give to Travis Konecny. Leads the team in ice time, gets a nice goal. He's Travis Konecny. He's a darn good player. 2nd star, okay, that's obviously Tyson Foerster. Easily the best player on the ice for the Flyers. Scores the 1st goal, draws 2 penalties. The 1st penalty directly leads to the 2nd goal. He was kind of trying to single-handedly win the Flyers this game. Now, didn't work. Wasn't enough. But this is very much not on Tyson Foerster. He was real good. 1st star of the game, I'll give it to Jack Eichel. 2 assists, really good game. Mark Stone gets that goal, but that goal is set up by the work of Jack Eichel. Eichel's having a great year. They mentioned on the broadcast, I think he's 3rd in the NHL in assists, tied with Nathan McKinnon right now. He's having an awesome year. Brian Boucher praised him a lot for his improvements in his 2-way play. I don't watch Eichel enough to know if that is more reputational than reality, but it seems like people in Vegas believe it. He's been a real good player for years. regardless of whether he's actually gotten better as a two-way player or if it's just that now people are starting to notice. I'm not sure. But tonight, he was best player on the ice for a start of the game.
I'm glad you mentioned Jack Eichel, because that's something I actually wanted to bring up tonight, Charlie. Was I saw your Rasmus Ristolainen interaction on Twitter today, not with him, but about Rasmus Ristolainen. And it is so funny. Like, I believe the Flyers need a defenseman who drives offense, and sometimes I judge players strictly on points. But it is really funny to be a person who would look at Ristolainen and go, well, look what he used to do with Buffalo, and now everyone thinks he's good, but he's not. I took the time and just the time where he had, I think there was a 4-year stretch where he was a big part of their power play. He was second over those 4 years on the team in power play points. Number 1 was Jack Eichel. Number 2 was Ryan O'Reilly. Number 3 was Sam Reinhart. All these Stanley Cup champion, awesome scorers he's out there with. It's really not a shock he was able to put up some points being the only guy. Rasmus Dahlin, it was one overlap year and he was in the top 5. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had this debate in pregame about how I don't really care that much about defenseman points. Obviously, for the power play quarterback, you want that guy to rack up points. But I think a lot of it tends to be products of what other guys in the ice. Just look, the defenseman, unless you have a defenseman like Cale Makar, who is regularly creating the offense on his own, and you want him to because he's one of the best skaters in the NHL and is super creative with the puck. Otherwise, you really only want the defenseman. Only really want them to do is pinch sometimes, but mostly just engineer breakouts. And if they're doing a good enough job of that, and they're passing the puck up ice, and they're getting the forwards in the offensive zone, if the forwards just aren't, giving them back a secondary assist here and there, I don't really care as long as goals are being scored.
I also want defensemen every now and then to throw a Cronwall hit when they're trying to exit the offensive zone. But, that's just me, Chuck. All right. Before we get to Super Chats, this is something I definitely want to get into tomorrow on the studio show. Join us live at 4 o'clock for that one. But it really sounds like Elias Pettersson is available, Charlie.
Does it? Because I've been more hearing that JT Miller's available.
I think it makes more sense for them to trade JT Miller, but I don't always expect coaches and GMs to do the smart thing. It's well, he's our heart and soul, so we got to keep him even though he's 30. If he were to be I don't think it would make sense to go get JT Miller. That's not in their window.
Right.
But if Pettersson
is. Yeah.
Other than maybe not having what they would want, because I can't imagine they wouldn't want a top 6 center back in this sort of deal. And if they don't want Morgan Frost, it's well, I don't know what to tell you. Other than that, do you have any reason why the Flyers shouldn't be in on Pettersson?
No, they should obviously be checking in. And do I think they would have the best package for him? Probably not, because I imagine it would be, you have all those first-round picks. You have Jet Luchenko, who you could theoretically include if they want some type of nearly NHL-ready center with upside. They have some pieces. I would have to think that other teams would have better ones, but you never know. The only reason I can think of as to why the Flyers wouldn't want to trade for Elias Pettersson is because they obviously have a easy way to get a hold of Rick Tocchet.
Yeah.
And if Rick Tocchet doesn't think Elias Pettersson's got that dog in him, and maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I've heard as recently as last year that Tocchet wasn't Pettersson's biggest fan. Maybe they're better in a better place now. Maybe he thinks higher of him. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But if he doesn't, I could easily see it being a scenario where Keith Jones gives Rick Tocchet a call and asks what Toc off the record thinks about Pettersson, and if Tocchet says, super talented player, I don't know if you win a cup with him. Do the Flyers make the massive offer that they would have to make to get him? Maybe they don't. But that's the only reason I can think of why you don't. Because otherwise, he fits the bill for everything they need. He's a number one center, clear cut, in his prime, hyper skilled. The idea of pairing him with Michkov for the next 5, 6, 7 years, it's an exciting proposition. So if he's actually available, yeah, Flyers should at the very least be checking in. But if I had to guess if they're going to trade any one of those two guys, you have to think it's JT Miller. Like, he just makes more sense to trade.
It would absolutely make the most sense. But that's the sense I get, is the whole, yeah, he's just not that guy sort of thing. And as much as JT Miller is the older one, he does have that thing. Now, if it's a greater character issue, sure, maybe you don't want to make the massive trade. But if it is just, he doesn't play playoff hockey, he doesn't have that winning mentality, whatever the stupid hockey cliche is, I got to say, that's the reason John Tortorella is here, because all that stuff is, supposedly all that stuff can be taught. Like, that's the whole reason we're doing the rebuild. We're doing it the way we're doing it. If that's holding them back, then I got to call BS on the entire plan. Like, that means you don't actually believe the stuff you're saying about your plan. But we can get into this maybe if we want to on tomorrow's show. Brenna, let's hit those super chats. All right, first one is from our pal JH. Who does Aleksei Kolosov have blackmail on? The whole I'm taking my puck and going home. Diva BS doesn't work when you're bad. Time to ride a bus in Lehigh Valley.
I mean, this speaks to what I was saying about how, the fans will accept that if you play well. And if you don't play well, then you're going to get responses like this from fans. Like, it's just the reality of the situation.
And you know what we haven't heard? And, like, listen, he's making $5 million. He doesn't care. He doesn't have to pay escrow. So, like, that's probably fun for him. We haven't heard Cal Peterson be like, I'm an NHL goalie. Where's my NHL time? Like, he had one bad game. He was relegated to Lehigh Valley forever after that. I'd much rather deal with that sort of attitude than what we think we're getting out of Kolosov. The issue is now, like, he is a prospect. You don't want to lose him forever. And your number one's hurt. Whoever you play is probably going to stink. Like, that's the issue now. It's like, oh, well, Cal Peterson. I saw Kevin Kurz be like, Cal Peterson wouldn't be worse than this. Like, maybe not worse, but better. I don't know about that either. But he definitely is wearing thin on fans on fans just because of the way everything started. And I think you're right. Like, if he had been good right away, he'd have a lot more leeway. People would forgive that stuff immediately, but he's stunk. All right, let's hit the next one. From Adam S. Is Captain Toothless slipping back into being bad at hockey again? He looks kind of bad as of late. Looks like he lost a step. Fourth line goon.
Is this John Tortorella's alias? Is Adam S. actually John Tortorella?
I don't know if he's been bad, but like we said, he's never going to be what Torts is like ideal, even if he's playing well. It's kind of like the Morgan Frost thing. Like, well, as soon as it starts to go poorly, I'm scratching Frost. It just feels like, if he slips a minute, if he slips a bit, his minutes get reduced.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what happens with Coots. And honestly, no, he hasn't been as good lately.
Yeah, his game has slipped a bit. I don't think it's slipped as bad as Adam is hinting that it has. But what I can tell you is it seems like John Tortorella agrees with Adam S. because he gave him fewer than 10 minutes tonight. He's functionally on the fourth line. So, Adam, you got John Tortorella in your corner, apparently.
What I'll say about giving him less than 10 minutes in a game like this, honestly, if we think he's going to be a part of the future, sit him. Sit him all the time. All right. Before we go any further, I do want to thank everyone who joined us on TV tonight. If you are one of our television viewers, make sure you check out allphly.com for every show as well. All right. Let's hit this next one from Adam S. This is going to piss off a ton of people, but Michkov doesn't look as good as he did. If he wants more power play time, he should do more at 5-on-5. My issue with that is he's not with two. Like, yes, he could be the line driver. Absolutely. He's with Scott Laughton and Morgan Frost. Morgan Frost, I've never been sold on him, and this year he's nowhere near as good as he was the previous two. And Scott Laughton, like him a lot, he doesn't belong in the top 6.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would go that far with Frost. I think he's been worse this year than he was in the second half of last year, which is the best version of Morgan Frost I've seen. I don't think he's been horrendous, but yeah, I don't disagree functionally with what Adam's saying. I do think Michkov's game has slipped a bit
Oh, it definitely
overall.
has.
But
It
that
definitely
said,
has.
he's had some good games. I mean, it looked like for a minute he was going to get scratched. When he got benched for the third period of the Anaheim game. Next night he comes out, plays well against the Kings and shows he's still got some jump left. So it's the dog days of the season. It's a tough road trip. Maybe it's just a case of he doesn't have his legs as much as he would otherwise right now. You just got to let him play through it. Let him play through it as long as he's not making obvious mistakes and tuning out the coach and yelling at teammates. As long as it's just a case of he's struggling a bit, keep throwing him out there and hope he plays his way out of it. Because it seems like at the very least he's playing better than he was when he was going through that 7-game pointless drought. I know the spotlight's going to be on Michkov more than any other player.
Yeah.
But also, it's all just so very exhausting, Bill. It's like when he has a great game, he's a superstar and he never does anything wrong. And then he has a couple bad games and it's what's wrong with Michkov? Nothing. He's a 20-year-old rookie. That's what's wrong.
Yeah, and I thought he made some good second effort plays tonight, like keeping offensive possessions alive. I thought he did a couple little things tonight. Didn't really flash, but I guess it just won't be every game. All right, I think we have one more from Pasenema. Flyers would be plus 10 points with an okay pro goalie. Plus 10 points with an okay goalie over Carolina? Is that what we're saying here?
Okay, that I don't really agree with. Carolina is a much better team than the Flyers.
Maybe not over Carolina, but I think they'd be in a playoff spot or at least in the mix. They might even be.
I agree.
Listen, you look at the way the Metro is shaping up, and it's like, could they be in the top 3 with like a 900 save percentage? Perhaps. Power play a little better, maybe, but yeah, that's the way this season's going, and I guess we just have to live with, hey, maybe they'll pick in the top 10. All right, do we have any more, Brenna? I believe that is it. All right, and that is all the time we have for you on the PHLY Flyers postgame show, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. Thanks to everyone who was with us through this road trip, the late games, the late starts, everything through the holidays. Really appreciate it. Can't tell you how much it means to us. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for our regularly scheduled studio show. So tune in for that. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers and follow the podcast as well. Wherever you get those, just search PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. Until tomorrow, let's go Flyers.